Welcome back, everyone. We're going to look at social engineering as it exists on its own as a topic. So you would recognize, hopefully, that this term social engineering is in other units that we have, and concepts from this unit are in so many other units because social engineering is human manipulation. It is lying. And so if you're going to try to steal people's information, you are social engineering. But this is specific. This is specific to how bad actors, as they would say, try to get information out of you and try to steal what they can. So social engineering attacks a target, people, rather than a technology. So when we really, I in the other units am applying social engineering to this is social engineering in phishing. This is social engineering in creating a Trojan. But social engineering is to attack a person. The attacker manipulates your behavior or tries to manipulate your behavior to gain access to information systems or physical spaces that they shouldn't be in. And so this really covers the techniques and the psychological triggers that we go through and how you can recognize those. And that's really the important part of discussing all this is to recognize what's happening. We see this kind of thing on TV a lot. It's one of the only things they get right when they start talking about security and computers and all that. It's one of the only things that they get right. But very much like somebody buzzes and says, "Hey, I need to get into the building," and blah, blah, blah. And they make up a story so they can get into the building. Or they come in and they're like, "Oh, I'm supposed to deliver the cake to floor 13," which, nobody can get on unless you've got a secure pass. But oh, the boss is going to be so upset if they don't get the birthday cake. So that's social engineering, right? They're lying to get in. So we're going to cover all of these objectives that I've had on the screen a little bit there. Okay, so what is social engineering? Again, manipulating people into performing actions for you or revealing sensitive information to you. It relies on trust, it relies on deception and human emotion, not software flaws. Social engineering doesn't have to do with that. Trust. They're going to try to build trust. They're going to try to deceive you. They're going to use your emotions against you. Steal passwords, get clicks, gain physical access, steal account information, anything is in there. And so we have covered the pretexting, phishing, vishing, and impersonation. We've talked about those things. But pretexting, that's a fake identity, a scenario to gain trust. It's not about actually texting somebody before you text them. It is the fake identity. I'm from UPS, and here is a package that you need to sign for. But really, you're after the signature, and you may be giving them something in the package to gain their trust, but you're after that signature. So we'll skip these because we've talked about those, or we do talk about those. I'm not sure where this will end up in the material. But there they are. You can read them. And impersonation, right? That's hi, I'm IT, and you need to tell me stuff. This happens all the time. I don't know if you've seen the people that basically get the fraudulent people to call them, and basically they're going to hack your bank account or steal information off your computer, and they basically trick you into installing something on your computer so that that happens, and they trick those people, which is fantastic. I'll put in some links to that information. But yeah, very common. Oh, I'm with IT. I'm with Google, and we saw your account hacked. So let's log into Google. But first, if you can go to this website, and then you go to the website, you click the link they want. Now they're on your computer, and then they record your login. That's just one example. Common techniques, these are physical, baiting, enticing, uh, actually putting a labeled USB, this is huge these days, a labeled USB drive, and it's just there on the ground. And that's an enticing item, like, oh, somebody dropped a USB drive. If I'm a good person, I should find out who this goes to. If I'm a curious person, then maybe I want to find out what's on it. Well, really, what's on it is I'm going to compromise your computer. So you shouldn't do that. And, in places like a college campus, which a lot of people lose these USB drives, they should be storing stuff in their cloud account, but they lose these USB drives. Tech support's going to have a machine that's just not connected to anything, and they're going to plug it in and see what it is, but it's not connected to anything. That way, if it's actually there to hack their systems, they can take a look at that on that machine that's not connected to anything. Tailgating, that's what I described well, actually, I didn't describe this version of it, but you see this in the movies all the time. They're buzzing, and I'm not going to let you in because I hate you now and you'll never get in. And then, of course, somebody else comes and unlocks the door, and then they go in after them, following authorized persons into a restricted area. And the reason you need to know that, right? If you're working in a business and you're going back into an area that is not available to the public and somebody's following you, then a lot of times that's really an awkward situation. And you may say, well, I trust, so I guess this is somebody I don't know. They work on a different shift or something. And in this day and age, you should be like, who are you? Why are you coming back here? And that's going to be offensive to that person. And that's why a lot of people won't even do it because they're like, I don't want to offend them. Yeah, but they may be coming into an area they're not supposed to be in, and they're just relying on your trust. So, politeness and assumed trust. Okay, other things. Urgency, act now. As I've said in other videos, if it says act now, then just don't act. Your account will be locked. Urgency, forget it. That's a fear as well. And curiosity. This is confidential. I don't know if I should tell you this, but, and you're like, oh, wow, tell me. Authority, hi, this is IT. Hi, I'm representing the boss. I'm the bank, whatever that happens to be. Knowing these triggers helps you to slow down and think. So knowing that they're saying you need to act now, that should, for me, that's immediately, I'm not even going to act now. This is so common that if you tell me to act now, I'm going to ignore you. That's just forget it. And of course, your account will be locked. Well, in this class, you'll learn how those accounts work, two-factor authentication, all that, and then you'll know, oh, this is totally fake. They're not going to lock anything on me. Now, curiosity, right? That killed the cat. There's a reason why that's stated. So you do have to be careful with somebody saying, "Oh, I'm going to share this information. I shouldn't," because really they're trying to build this trust between you, and of course they're probably just totally lying about the whole thing. Most of this will be used together. It'll be intermixed. These two together, these three together, so that they can try to get information out of you. So how do you defend? Verify the identities before responding. This is getting huge. I mentioned this again in the AI chapter, but basically these days, my voice is out there on YouTube, so they can take it and they could then do a little search and find out who my kids are and then redo my voice and try to fake my children into believing that I'm in some kind of danger. This is going to become the biggest threat in the future. And I think there's things we can do politically to make sure that, okay, if somebody is perpetrating that kind of crime, that there is really, really a bad thing that's going to happen to them, right? They're going to serve. You get caught doing that, you're in 5 years in prison, no questions asked, 10 years, 25, depending on how bad it is. I think there's those kinds of things that will help. But some is going to come out of the country, right? So that's going to be harder to figure out. And so people need to know, they need to have some kind of word that gets used. There needs to be, and I'm not joking because it sounds really scary, but I'm not joking about this. You really need something. So like, okay, well, I'm your dad. If I called and all of a sudden I say I'm in trouble and I need a bunch of money or, whatever it happens to be, there's going to be a word that I'm going to have to use. And that word will let you know it's me. And if I don't use that word, then you ignore it. And that is very common these days for people to do. I've heard stories of basically kids getting calls on the phone and, hey, I'm going to pick you up from school right now. And you need to come out of school. And the kid being smart enough to actually call dad or mom that they heard on the phone. So call them and say, hey, are you picking me up? And then it's like, no, I'm not picking up. Why are you asking me that? And they've got these fake phone calls and it sounds like dad or mom, and that's a real problem. So again, slow down, resist the urgency and pressure, question unexpected requests, never share your passwords or your authentication codes. Never, never, never do that. That's what they do. They're like, hey, this is a bank. And so what was that code you got? And they're typing the code in so they can get into your account. Follow verification procedures, even under pressure. And that might be that secret word, or it might be that two-factor authentication that you're not sharing with them, that kind of thing. I mean, if they're really from the bank, they don't need your two-factor authentication. They can get in and see what they want. Security awareness is the strongest defense. Just knowing this information and knowing what those people need from you is key. I need the authentication code. I need your user ID. I need your password. Just knowing that is half the battle because then you can say, wait a minute, again, you're from Amazon? Why would you need my two-factor authentication? Oh, well, they don't need it. If they work for the company, they have access to all that. And they'll try to make it sound reasonable, but it's still, you should know, no, that's for me. That's for me to verify who I am. That's not something you need. All right, human factor. People can be emotionally manipulated. That's usually how manipulation occurs. It comes through the emotional path, not the logical argument path. Stress, trust, fear, and urgency reduce critical thinking. There's lots of people who talk about that and manipulating societies and so on, but that is a true statement. If you put people into a sense of stress, fear, urgency, then they stop thinking critically and they go into survival mode and they tend to just do whatever somebody has told them to do. Of course, you also want, trust in there that, oh, I can trust this person. I can trust them. Strong technical roles can fail if users are deceived. Controls, sorry, not roles, meaning two-factor authentication, which is very strong, will fail because you're giving them the two-factor. You don't want that to happen. And so what you need to do is spread the word, right? Talk about this, have them take this class, but tell them, training, you have to tell them this is how they work. You don't ever believe them when they call. If it's urgent, you talk to me and I can double check. And that's something that me and my wife do. Like there's all sorts of scams and things that are out there. And if we see something that we think, wait a minute, what? We send it to them. What do you think about this? You reduce that urgency, and then the other person looks at it that's not feeling that urgency and could say, this doesn't seem right to me. Spot the manipulation. A caller claims to be from IT, says your account will be locked in 10 minutes. Urgency. No, it's not. And plus, like I've said in other videos, there's no way that IT is ever calling you. Now, yeah, if you're working someplace, right, I can get a call from EAC's tech department. Yeah, that's gonna happen. But yeah, I'm not getting one from Google. Microsoft's not contacting me. Yeah, oh, Chase, we think your account has been hacked. They're not going to do that. What they're going to do is lock the account and then say you need to call us. And then again, you don't believe the email, you just go to their site and you get the phone number and you call them from that. So always remember that. That's something I've mentioned a couple of times now, that if they're saying, if they're reporting, I'm from Bank of America, I'm from EAC, I'm from wherever, you don't use the number they give you, you don't use the email they give you, you go to the site and you use that information. They ask you to read back your multi-factor, which triggers are being used. So identify them as they're emailing you, texting you, talking to you. Take a look at that. What triggers are being used right now? Are they trying to build trust? Are they trying to build urgency? Are they trying to scare me? What's happening? And yeah, it's sad. It's sad that we have to do that. It's unfortunate that we can't just trust. But That's not the world we live in anymore. And one of the biggest reasons why is because you're part of this internet thing. And the internet means your next door neighbors with the best people in the world and your next door neighbors with the worst people in the world. You're electronically connected to them, and there's maybe a split second difference between somebody responding in your state and somebody from Japan or Africa responding. That's all there. Everybody is our neighbor. Use the verification procedure, independently verify identities, refuse sharing those codes. Again, that's going to keep pounding that in because that happens all the time. So remember, social engineering relies on this trust and deception and emotion. Common techniques are pretexting, phishing, vishing, that we cover in more detail, baiting, impersonation. Baiting somebody is trying to get them to reveal information. Baiting, oh, I was talking to Joe the other day. Joe. And in that point, I'm trying to impersonate somebody that knows Joe. And of course, walking in behind somebody into an area that shouldn't be. But impersonation is also the IT department. Somebody coming to your door saying, I'm going to take a poll. When really they're not taking a poll, they're going to try to pump you for information. Oh, are you going on vacation? That kind of stuff. And then, of course, the triggers: urgency, fear, curiosity, authority. They have authority, and you're going to be in trouble, which plays into that fear. Slow down, verify the identities. I don't usually even do this. Usually, it's so fraudulent. It's like I'm not moving to this step. You're using urgency, you're using fear, therefore this is false. And I just go from that usually. Follow procedure. Now, this really gets into, well, you should have your own procedures. Like I said, maybe there's a word that gets used, but also procedures. At work, they have procedures. Like you're not going to get a call from IT saying, hey, uh, your password, I don't think is right. Isn't your password blah, blah, blah? Oh, no, it's some. IT's not going to call you and talk to you about your password. That's not the procedure for that. And they will spend time in your work and your business saying this is the procedure. And if they don't, they need to be doing that. They need to be saying these are the procedures we follow so if somebody's pretending to be us, that's not the correct procedure. For instance, I might get a call or an email that says, yeah, I'm such and such, student, and I need information about my grade. Well, I don't even respond to those unless it's coming from that person's account through the official channel. So if they Gmail me out of their regular account, then my next response is going to be, what's the procedure? Well, I need your student ID. I need you to prove to me that you're that student. And then I'm probably, because I teach these courses, going to say, why aren't you contacting me through your official email? And you're in such and such class, so why don't you stop by at this time? To try to get around that. Now, that's just somebody's, whether or not they got an A or B or a 70 on a test or a 90 on a test. So that's not going to happen too often. But that's just to describe, like, what information are you after? How did you contact me? You came through some other Gmail account that's not your school email. That's not normal. You didn't include your student ID. I don't trust this. And maybe that person just, that's the account they use and they didn't think they needed to send their student ID. Well, you do. This is the procedure that we have to follow to make sure that you're not somebody that shouldn't have access to that data. So, and of course, never share secrets. Again, when you're talking about somebody impersonating or baiting you, they will try to share secrets with you to build that trust. And they're going to make up stuff, and they're going to, share information. And then you go, okay, I can trust them. I'm going to share information back. And that's what they want you to do. So I've got a link in my information that actually goes to my website. I've had students say, hey, what are good movies that are just good tech movies or actually portray hacking or social engineering in the way that it would actually happen? You can take a look at some of those. Usually when I talk about this, there's an old movie called Sneakers. Some of the stuff that they do in that, for instance, a black box that deals with everything. I won't get into too much. I don't want to spoil it. Nah, it's not really possible. The technology is a lot more complex than that. However, what they do in the social engineering aspect and hacking people is very, very true. Even in the beginning of the show, I like to watch that part just because, like, oh, that's doable, right? That can happen right there. So it's a good show to watch. But I've got a list out there if you want to take a look. Share your experiences with me. If you've got experiences, I always anonymize. I don't say, I have this particular student in class, but I do appreciate people's experiences where these kinds of things have happened to them and they have narrowly avoided, right? They've like, oh, I just barely got out of this, especially if it's something that's weird that people don't think too much about. And I share them. I send them down the line year after year. I talk about these things. Oh, I had a student that said this, and this happened to them. Um, when we talk about securing wireless and the practical information in the Wi-Fi, I will share an experience there that somebody told me about basically being blamed for things that they didn't do. So thanks for watching. And again, if you got questions, let me know. We'll talk with you later.